Good morning. This is Bob Connors, Chair of the Newbury Municipal Building Committee. I call the April 13th, 2023 meeting to order. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Martha Taylor.
Yes.
John Keller.
Yes.
Eric, I can see you. Can you hear me?
Oh, Eric, you're muted.
And Dana Packer.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. This open meeting of the Newbury Municipal Building Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, extended until June 15, 2023, due to the current state of the emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirements of open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. Please note this meeting is being recorded and the attendees are participating by video conference. Good morning, everybody. As always, I apologize for the lateness of getting meeting packets and its revisions. As we all know that do this stuff, every time you open up a packet, you want to tweak it. And I guess I'm a serial tweaker when it comes to this stuff. But so team, our meeting, we have a Q&A session coming up on Saturday, the 15th at 9 a.m. It will be in person over at Kent Way. And I thought that I compiled basically a file or a packet of pretty much all our previous meeting, any content that's been in a previous meeting packet with a couple of additions. So what I'm going to suggest is I'm going to run through the slides rather quickly. I'm going to focus on stuff that came in from context, the beginning of the week or beginning, I forget now when it was, just before the Finance Committee had met. And I think that's probably new information that we should discuss and process. So does that sound like a plan, team?
Yeah.
Works for me.
All right, so you've never seen this cover sheet before because the date has been changed, but pretty familiar stuff. So primarily, this is, the plan was here. This is obviously an artist rendering of proposed building. What we thought was having 25 High Road and 12 Kent Way identified on the map of Newbury, it gives us a visual of proximity to the three parishes of Newbury. So 25 High Road works very well, very convenient for Plum Island Parish, Old Town Parish, and certainly a fair percentage of the Byfield Parish, where Kent Way is certainly very convenient if I'm Dana Packer and I live over in that area. But from Plum Island, it's about a 20-minute ride, and probably from the Rowley line in Old Town, it's about a 20-minute ride. So I think just as a visual, it gives people a chance to see where we're at. So the issues, nothing has changed. You've seen this slide before. The goals, pretty much what we've done. what we're proposing. And the history, this was really plagiarized right out of one of Eric's presentations back in 2014, and the only thing that's changed is we're continuing to talk about town hall options. Okay, the two options that we've reviewed, option one, option two. Option one, replacement. Option two, raise, renovate, expand existing. So option one just starts back on this would be the proposed site plan. I mean, again, everything's work in progress, but it shows parking, it shows access to the back area for the fire department. But it alleviates a lot of the traffic congestion and traffic flow concerns that currently exist at 25 High Road when it's in operation. Okay. Rendering looking down High Road, rendering looking up High Road. These are the floor plans. And I have outline notes on all of these. So, maybe that's actually.
Bob, may I interrupt just?
Yes, certainly.
These are the earlier floor plans and not the most recent ones that we're looking at.
That's true.
Okay, and what is different about them, I guess, is my.
Go to the main floor, Bob.
Yeah.
And the windows, you still got the windows in the foyer.
Well, the more recent one has the clerk straight ahead when you walk in. And the second floor, the hearing room is on the opposite corner of the building. So I think this is, and we'd regularize the lobby. So I think this is the version before that.
Oh, okay. 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 No, that's an easy enough fix. Although the average person isn't even, it's conceptual certainly at this point, but I can make a change on that. All right, so I'll update those. Hence why we review this stuff, guys. You start to glaze over when you're doing this. All right, so
Can I ask another question?
yeah.
What kind of option one, option two, the rebuild is the rebuild actually an option now at this point?
No, I think what we're doing is showing the steps, how we went along, what we looked at, Dana, in the history of looking at it. And so having option one, option two, our recommendation is option one. But I thought it would be helpful for people to see that.
But let's just assume that because we're calling it option two, it's an option. And I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here for the questions. Yep. Somebody, in the crowd's going to go, well, why don't we go with option two? And I think that the answer, well, the committee has decided option one is the best. It isn't a good enough answer.
Well, I think two things to keep in mind for a Q&A, which is what we're preparing for Saturday, having the whole thought process seemed to provide a lucid background of what we looked at, how we've been there, whether it was this committee directly or a previous committee by it. And I think you do bring up a good point, Dana. When we actually go to town meeting, the issue then isn't how we got there; it's the why should you vote for it. So
yeah, I think
it's a very good point, Dana, that you bring up.
I talked to Tracy about this subject about during the annual town meeting, would we be able to vote on a renovation versus a new building? And I think the answer to that question is no. It's like we're voting on the new building with the current expense, in addition to putting that additional $1 million into the account, and it's either that or nothing. Am I wrong about that? Or
I mean, I think that's a question for Tracy, but I think the reality is, and if we get through all of the slides, and I'll focus on
I'm sorry.
the renovation cost. Our current budget is not set up for, I've done a comparison for renovation, but we've added the components to it so that you could see a side-by-side comparison. So, but so hold
Go ahead.
that thought, Dana, and
Sure.
when we get a little bit further on in option 2. So I think Dana's point is this could be confusing for the ATM. I think the point I'm conveying is for a Q&A where people are going to want to walk through all of this, this may be beneficial. But this is why why we're reviewing this. So option 2 is renovating town hall. So it was existing conditions, the deficiencies in the building, why we left, and the assorted historical pictures of where we've been, trailers. And I think this is the one that I think really kind of back in, I think this was in 2018. Yeah, I think it was 2018. When they were considering putting an addition off the back of the building. It just didn't work flow wise. And then honestly, the cost factor, you weren't other than saving an older building that had a lot of deficiencies. We exhausted putting an addition on, and the result was you still had kind of a bastardized traffic flow of parking concern.
And Dana, also that this was the rally cry of a bad site, that we didn't solve the intersection and bad high road. So those are still comments that we're hearing right now.
I understand.
But I think just walking everyone through it, Dana, was the thought, so that, you know what, the questions we've heard is, why this site? Why new versus renovation? And why is new construction cheaper than renovating, expanding? I mean, those seem to be the three. We're not going to get into whether you should rent or whether you should own, because that's not within our charge. But so let me do this, guys. So due diligence. Again, you've all seen this. Options considered. This is all previous options that Eric had put in a 2014 joint. But I think it covers a lot of the different sites, including the Apple building. All right, and then the solution is, now, I mean, whether this is an appropriate slide for Q&A or for town meeting, it's in there. I mean, for me, guys, it comes down to, at some point in time, whether it's this generation of Newbury residents or a future generation of Newbury residents, there'll be an awakening on wanting to stop renting and own their own town hall, whether it's economic or civic pride. Being able to close out this matter now for about $120 per year. And I'm not going to belabor the point of breaking it down by the month, by the week, by the day, but to put this to bed where none of us ever have to hear about this again for $120 a year, sign me up. Okay, and again, the historic district being 25 High Road. And these were the recommendations that we voted on and we presented at the joint committee with planning, capital planning, planning board, municipal, and select board and finance. Okay, so this is new content. One of the things that the finance committee was asking about was, you've told us that renovation will be the same cost or more expensive than new construction. And so what I did was I reached out to, now granted, all of us that are in the trades, and I think John and Eric, we see this every day. That's just common knowledge, within the industry. So I reached out to Jeff Shaw, and this was in preparation for an answer request from the Finance Committee. So what Jeff basically did is back in June of 2022, he told the select board, because a question was raised by select chairperson Greco about renovation versus new and what the cost impacts or savings would be. And Jeff Shaw at that time said what we've been saying since, it's at least the same or more expensive to renovate. He spelled out a number of the reasons why. So if we were to entertain renovation, one, the current contract with Context would have to be amended and increased because of the existing conditions. I'm going to suggest I can blow this up a little bit more, but reading this probably on your own time. So increased design cost, reduced efficiencies, planning documentation challenges, hidden latent conditions, public bidding requirements, and basically a summary is these factors lead directly to an increased cost and for increased time, which equates to cost. On the back page, he sums it up into 4 reasons. 1, cost per square foot will equal or exceed new construction. The owner's contingency for renovation addition should be carried at 25% of construction cost, not the 7 to 10%, which is routine for new construction. Total excusable delay for the contractor should be anticipated at 5 to 7 months, sorting through unknown existing conditions. Excusable delay cost, approximately $140,000 per month, to account for contractors' general conditions and cost of owner, project manager, and designer excusable delay. As it pertains specifically to the renovation of Newbury Town Hall, it's highly likely that all of the factors above will come into play, and consequently, any project budget will need to be properly increased to accommodate these issues. So I'm going to stop there because this is new information, for our team. So Eric, I'm going to start there. What's your yay, nay, thumbs up, thumbs down? Does this
No, I
ring
think
true?
Yeah, I mean, there is past history that got us to this point, and there was a lot of change in the past history for lots of different direction, and nothing seems to be perfect in this town. And so we've been through a process. We've all talked about it. We've put the best ideas on the table, and choosing the best ideas, and by choosing the advantages of the options, we have proceeded down a path. And I think it obviously in this town, for the size of the town and the way the town operates, there's not a lot of people that come out and cheer things on. They expect the town to operate, and if they don't have an issue, they don't say anything. And we have a fairly vocal group of people that seem to have issues with anything and everything, and like to just point out issues to the negative without bringing up any positives. So we're arriving and on a process of a very positive path and solution here. It's all out and on the table, and certainly people have a right to have opinions, but I've been working on this since 2013, having it being identified since 2006 in the town as needs. We're getting a little tired of people just saying like bad site, standing up and then sitting down and thinking like they championed or rallied something, and So I'd like to get over that and move forward and get things resolved in the town. And I think that's, my motivation is not here or there, but just to solve issues and move on. And there will always be more issues to solve. And the sooner we could get these done, and if people had looked back in 2014 and worked on a complex and solved police and fire needs, then we'd have simpler town hall issues to tackle. If we had done the combined synergies were just for not of understanding, and people just totally had a price tag, and it was just solely a price tag. And so we've kicked the can down the road, and here we are. So some of the comparisons to past options, they're past options at a certain point in time, and we've moved on from them. So I think it's all out here, Bob. I think the beginning stuff is good for reference. I would like not to dwell too much on it, but you're right. I think everyone just needs a quick informing in order to be able to move on and understand where we are and the benefits of that.
Okay, thank you. John, what are your thoughts? And I mean, Sarah, certainly your experience being an owner's project manager or owner's representative.
And having been a general contractor for half my career too, I thought about this push-pull going on, but it's so easy to see from even currently what it costs to bring a 40-year-old building, 50-year-old building up to code today. And I think we talked about this before, Jeff. There's so much work that would have to be done on the existing foundation. You couldn't save any of the wood frame system. You got to take it right down to the foundation, or you've got to pick up the building and extend the foundations. And I don't think I read in here too, but if we went with an addition, we'd lose 3 to 5 months of design time that we don't need to use if we go with a new building, because we've already got almost schematics done. So not only would the renovations cost you 3 to 5 months of delays for unknowns, you've also can't start for 3 to 5 months later. In my world, it's a no-brainer that a renovation of this building of this age is just too expensive. I think it could cost you $1.5 million more. Is what I came up with, rough speaking.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're doing is we made a decision based on all our expertise and empirical knowledge to look at going forward with a replacement building for all the reasons we've stated. Now we're backfilling it with probably a information backfilling why we made that decision. And I think that was the purpose of Jeff Shaw's letter. And then I've created I've broken out the cost components a little bit differently. So Martha, what are your thoughts? I want to go around to make sure we.
Right. No, I think it's very useful to have this letter from Jeff Shaw. I think all of us who've been in the profession one way or another, we all know that renovating an existing building, there are hidden conditions and many factors that are going to make it more expensive than building a new building. So I think it's useful to have this information, and especially where we're dealing with a structure that was originally built as a grange, and the efforts needed to bring that up to code and to create a building that would meet our needs is, certainly going to be more than building a new one. So I'm glad to have this information from Jeff.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dana, what about your thoughts on this?
Yeah,
Does this help? Does this help answer the question?
Oh, yeah, I wish we had had this letter about 6 months ago. I think it would have curtailed a lot of the issues that we've had to deal with. Can you go back to the last paragraph of that letter, Bob? Because I want to, when you get down to
This one here with
yeah,
the
right
floor?
there, yeah. When you
Okay.
get down to excusable delay costs and the 5 to 7 months possible extension and all of that, in any of those numbers, have you included the additional cost of the rental over on Kent Way?
No, I haven't, Dana. What I've tried to do is just keep us in our lane, which is can kind of site selection,
Right,
renovate, renew in it. But it's a valid point, but that might be more of a finance committee or a select board comment, because it is valid. I mean,
if you're trying to argue for or against, and let's just say both projects are exactly equal in all other categories, which we know that they're not. I think the additional delay, and I don't know where Tracy is at in her negotiating Kent Way and how many years we have in the future there. I don't know what she's planned on. I think that no matter what the project does, we're not gonna be moving into what, 2025, early 2025?
yeah, we've got the schedule coming up on the slide, and
Right.
again, that's if everything stays aligned the way, we're successful at town meeting, we're successful at the ballot, and then the next worldwide crisis.
I mean,
Doesn't,
even that being
erupt.
said, if it works perfectly, we're still gonna have to pay rent for a couple of more years.
Oh, yeah.
That's
No,
my point.
yeah,
And in this paragraph right here, if this takes place, you might push that out 2 more years. Maybe like we're talking now 2027, if we're gonna do a renovation. That's all. I don't know if that's worth bringing up or not,
yeah, no, you know what, Dana, I think it's important to discuss all these issues, because it's amazing what people focus on. I think any of us in the business, that once you say that, yeah, renovation and then putting an addition on that's bigger than the renovation is a no-go, because it's just going to be more expensive. But you know what? It needed to be further addressed. So what this was for. I've taken this data and recommendations from Context's letter. And why don't I go to the next slide if everyone's okay with that? And let me reduce this. So you've seen this format here where what I've done is I've added a column renovation, addition, and versus new construction. So what I've done is I've broken it out, and all I've done is use the same square footage cost as new construction for, and again, not anticipating anything other than if you did it dollar for dollar, the same square footage cost, we would, let me just reduce that. So basically, if we went with the renovation and again, not adding into anything other than that square footage, we use the same factor. Renovation would be $8,100,000 rounding up. And new construction would be $8.7 million. Keeping all the other numbers, soft costs, professional services, the same, which is not the case, because we'd have to renegotiate and amend the soft cost, and it would be higher. But again, trying not to make this any more complex than it had to be, I added line 39, project contingency, 25% for renovation addition, and picked up all of those variables above the comparable cost per square foot. And then we added a reserve line item for excusable delay and made a notation. So at the end of the day, project total is 11,574,000 for new, taking into consideration contingency, excusable delay, 13,600,000. So let me stop there. That, again, it's very hard to do this apples for apples, because we'd have to go back and start from scratch. But just taking the information that was provided by Context, is this more confusing or is it more helpful? I don't know. It would answer my question, but I look at this stuff every day, as many of us do.
Yeah, well, you and I and Eric understand because we do see it every day.
Yeah.
The average person probably won't, so it requires some answers.
So Dana, I'm going to start with you because you know what, you're looking at it through a different lens than us that do it every day. You know, this
Yeah.
is you're sitting in the back of the plane while we're running the front of the plane. Now you're in reverse. You're a passenger on this bus, not driving it. Does this help?
Good one.
Does this make it more complex, or is it?
I think for the people, it helps. The short answer is it helps. I'm playing judge advocate here because I'm trying to prepare us for the next two Q&As we got coming up. And one thing that's on this page, which I think I'm probably out of order here a little bit, but the project, I just saw that we just put an article in the paper about the OPM, hiring the OPM. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
And
it's the request for qualifications.
when did that go in? 2 days ago?
So the RFQ was released yesterday, and the notification showed it was in the Daily News yesterday and also in the Central Register yesterday.
Yeah, that's definitely going to come up on Saturday.
Yeah.
In my mind, and I know it. Tell me if that's coming later on down the line in the briefing. I'll just stop and we can move on. But I think the problem that the question that is obvious to me is going to be obvious is why are we doing it now? Why didn't we do it further back?
Well,
that's going to be a question.
So let's do this, Dana. Why don't we finish going through the slides on the
Okay.
packet,
Yeah.
and then we can circle back on that and refresh memories of how we got to where we are and all this.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Oh, I know how we got to where we are, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm just telling you that's
Yeah.
going to be a question.
no, and I think it's good to refresh it. One, people do watch our meetings. I know that's shocking after the fact, but they will go back and look at some of our meetings. So again, so Dana, the question to you was, does this spreadsheet help explain the difference in the rationale and the exposures that between renovation versus new?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I think a little bit of kickback that we might get on this particular page is it accurate? You know there's people out there that are going to go, well, this number's not right and that number's not right, and where did you get this number from? But the concept is perfect.
Yeah.
But there's going to be questions on the accuracy of the form. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and and at the end of the day, these are projections based on empirical records looking backwards. The real number will be when the bids come in, and no one can predict that. So, Martha, does this help or hurt us, or what would you think would add some clarity to this? And
Bob, excuse me, but I have to jump off.
oh, okay.
Sorry. Thanks, everybody. I will be there early Saturday.
Thanks, Eric.
All right.
See you, Eric.
No, I think it's helpful to have. I do wonder a little bit about the soft cost, just because Jeff mentions in his letter that they will be more expensive. So, essentially what this does is kind of move all of that down in a way to the bottom lines. But
yeah, I mean, I think you could add a factor of 15% to soft cost subtotal, and that'd be accurate. But you know what? I don't want to Dana's point, then we'd be actually kind of guesstimating what the additional cost would be. I think we made the point with the variance between the 11.6 versus the 13.7.
Right. I mean, the last few lines are really what and the first few are really what tell the
Yeah.
story.
So, John, what's your thoughts on this? This help or hurt?
I think it helps fine, and I don't have a problem with sharing or answering some of these questions to help people understand what went on. Like I said, I did a comparison a couple of weeks ago myself, and I came up with $1.5 million we're at $2 million right now. So
Yeah.
again, I got to think like say Dana would, where he's not in the industry, what kind of questions was not clear, and how can we answer them, make it simple for everybody to understand what we did.
Yeah. During the finance committee meeting, a lot of good questions. It was actually very good prep for the Q&A, and their focus were site selection,
Mhm.
renovation versus new, and then programming needs. And so we walked through all of those three topics, and it was a 6-0 vote in favor. The big thing was on the renovations. I had mentioned that our business, we don't do any new construction. We don't pour concrete. All we do is renovations. And each and every one of these projects that's a renovation, the standing joke is it's a contractor's steak sandwich. That once we open a wall, it's like, oh my God, look at that. What's there? Everything stops. The architect gets called. He brings in a consulting engineer. An SK gets generated. We price it, goes to the owner, and it gets approved. And it isn't like they can get 3 bids on a change order. You already own the contractor. And now that's a 3-week process, which adds 3 weeks to our general conditions, which
Correct.
is reimbursable. And that happens over and over and over and over. And that's where you get the 5 to 7 months delay and the at increase in contingency. So, all right, let me do this. If
Right
we
on.
don't have any further questions on this page, I wanted to go back to, this was our original budget we were carrying was 10,885,000 and a few cents. And then on 310, that adjusted up. In conversation with Jeff Shaw, he instructed us, he told me, he said, your direct costs should be combined. They shouldn't be broken out into a first, second, third floor. And he recommended two scenarios. Direct cost for construction was at $8,282,429, where before our subtotal was $8,223,000 for all direct costs. He also suggested breaking out building removal. Public bids right now, building removal is about $10 per square foot. And so it equates to about $68,000. And the thought was, that's something, if the town is successful at town meeting and at the ballot, it may be, while we're finalizing our construction drawings and DDs and CDs prior to bid, that the town could look at removing, if it was feasible, cost-wise. It was an avenue we might save some money. So those were the 2 changes from our 10-8 budget that brought it up to the 11-5 budget. And everything else. Now, the only other change was once we increased direct cost of construction, the escalation went up, 4% of the new cost. So basically, we went from 8.2 to 8.6 on direct construction costs. And then as we went down to line 37, project contingency, percentage remained the same, but the amount increased, fractionally to match what we were, what had increased above. So why don't I stop there? Because I know there's been some questions on how did that happen? So, Dana, any questions on this?
No, I mean, I understand it. This is going to come up. I think it's, I don't have any issues with it. I think it's probably column C, I think is probably more accurate. I like the reorganization of the expenses. And I understand where the where the increase came from. But that, and I'm glad you brought it up because this will be another question, I'm sure on Saturday. So as
Yep.
long as we have the answers, that's what we're looking for, you know?
Well, that way there, it was very simple that
Yeah, no, yeah.
we were carrying in the original, in column B, we had homogenized the building removal within construction costs. And then as construction costs were updated by the architect, we discussed. So originally construction costs were including it from the architect, the 68,000. Then when I asked for that breakout, I said, well, you know, $68,000 seemed like an extraordinary amount of money to tear down what's basically a fairly good sized house. But John Keller, how many divisions are in a construction bid? Is it 33 divisions? What is the?
Well, tell them what you break it down by is anywhere from 20 to 30.
Yeah. So I think this is for Dana. So Dana, construction is broken down into categories. They're called divisions, and it's all under an AIA format. And actually, Martha, you're a resident architect. And so when you break something down, it's broken down by division, and then there are line items under each division capturing a particular cost. Martha, walk us through that, because a lot of people don't understand how a bid is broken down and how costs are determined.
Yeah, so each of the trades, I mean, there are general conditions, and then each of the trades has its sort of own division, like there's masonry, there's roofing, so on and so forth, and then subcategories within that.
Right.
And we're dealing here, there are certain trades that need to be what are called filed sub bids.
Right.
Also, so it's a little different than it would be if you were bidding for your house, for example. So
I think the point is that when you're trying to determine cost, you break it down into the proper divisions and then all of the subdivisions of that, and it results in about anywhere from 200 to 400 line items of cost that are at this stage projections are speculative versus what they'll come in as a bid. So quantifying the direct cost is the way we've done it in the past.
Right.
And because go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, I think Fogarty's estimate was broken down, into kind of some of those general categories like mason.
Yeah, and I know that context is that's still in preliminary form, and they're reviewing each and every one of those 400 to 500 line items to see what's included and what's not. But the two relevant numbers, for me, was the direct cost on construction,
right,
and breaking out the 68,000 on the demo, and they'll sort out the masonry that's included that shouldn't be, and some of the other things. But we should actually that'll be interesting when that gets finalized, but it's all part of the process. All right,
when you do a requisition like in a public job like this, you probably will have like 30 or 40 pages on the requisition with all the detail.
Yep.
So I mean, that you don't need that here. Fogarty's done that when they've done their estimate to some degree, but that's not pertinent to what we're doing to get a budget together. So for us to see. Okay.
All right. So any other questions on this slide? And I'll go to the next one. So project schedule. So Dana, here was you were asking.
I have a comment, and it's brought up in the past that some.
You want me to go back to the
would you go back
previous slide? Okay.
I don't pay half as much attention to this because I don't think it's that important, but is there any numbers left here that are exactly the same as what we used for the police station?
Oh, yeah. Because it's a square footage number. for
But
many of these things.
let's just say, like, one that's been brought up is equipment and furnishings.
Yep.
Did we use this on the estimate for the police station? Was the equipment and furnishings identical?
It would be because it was a square footage allocation for FF&E, Dana, and you had a 10,000 square foot police station. We got a 10,000 square foot town hall. Just like we use a square footage number for building, breaks down all the way down the line.
So it doesn't matter what type of equipment or furnishings you're putting into the building, you're just using strictly square footage, and it happens to
Exactly.
be the same, and that's why the numbers are identical.
Yeah, because you have the same exact square footage, although you get different components going in
Different
there.
components.
Yeah,
Okay.
it.
If this was a lab project, it'd be different, but it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
And, in the police station, you actually had probably less furniture, but you had dispatch and you had training
Town hall.
rooms. And with town hall, we'll have more furniture and a fair amount of technology. And so,
Less heavy duty equipment.
And like I said, because I think you're gonna hear somewhere along the line that, well, you guys, you didn't do any of your homework because all as you did was just slide numbers over from the police station. So as long as we have a good answer to that question, that will go well,
yeah, I mean, so I think the simple question, if we were building a 14,000 square foot town hall, the FF&E per square foot would be multiplied times 14,000 and you have a different number.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay, so I mean that's really I mean that's really what you're looking at. So, but basically you're carrying about $60 a square foot for FF&E. So whatever size the building was going to be, that would be the number. Okay.
All right, good.
Okay. All right. So let me move down. So here's our project schedule. And again, this was tied into April 25th for the ATM, May 9th for the ballot. And then certainly as depending on the success of both endeavors, moving on to the next phase of design and engineering, notice to proceed to our designer. And, complete documents for design development. And you'll always see this value engineering. As the next level of detailed drawings come in, we will then get certain updated cost estimates on actual components of the divisions, I think is probably the easiest way to refer to it. And then if we see something that is out of line, we'll drill down on it. And we had this with the elevator at the police station. But this is a standard each step along the way. Value engineering is, if it's needed, we look at it to see if there's any way we can save some money on each step. So let me stop there. I mean, pretty self-explanatory on the schedule. Dana, any questions on the schedule?
I have a whole nother brand new thought that I actually wrote down here a little while ago. There's after action reports.
Okay,
And
but on the schedule though, any questions on the schedule?
No questions on the
Okay.
schedule.
Okay, let me, like I said, let me finish going through these slides and then we'll just open it up. Okay, now this was another thing that, if you recall, we had I will actually eliminate the two back pages. We did originally back in June of 2022, Context did a program comparison of existing rented square footage at Kent Way versus programming needs we projected for town hall. And it was trying to quantify what was missing and what wasn't. This table got created. So why don't we look at this? Because again, this is all new stuff. the backup of all this was you've seen. But this table was added new and quantified. And again, how we label stuff. So let me walk through this. So currently at Kent Way, we rent 5,100 square feet, and that's net square footage. Okay, missing locations on net square footage is 2,400 square feet. So functions, extra meeting rooms, separate space for, we have shared meetings, was about 2,400 square feet. And so a grossing factor, we talked about this in the past, you got to multiply net square footage by 30% in order to accomplish the grossing factor. And the next line item, missing MEP, HVAC, and vault. Right now, we don't pay for the elevator room. We don't pay for the sprinkler room. We don't pay for the electrical room. We don't pay for the mechanical room. And we do not have a town clerk vault at Kent Way. The state has allowed us to continue to use the vault over at 25 High Road. When you add that all back in, that's another 1,123 square feet. Storage trailers outside, we're renting approximately 600 square feet of storage trailers outside. I think we've heard about what condition our documents are in. So at the end of the day, we were trying to do a comparison, apples for apples the best we could. And so the net square footage for Kent Way versus proposed square footage was 5,100 versus 6,800. And let me stop there. Again, this makes sense to me, but am I adding more confusion to this? Is there a better way of formulating this that would help us convey the message of comparisons? Dana, I'm going to start with you, Dana, because you're.
I think this is very helpful. I think that the piece of the puzzle that's missing here and is the layout of Kent Way. According to most of the folks that actually work in the building, the layout isn't very helpful, which I think is another big piece of this puzzle. Where, I mean, we could actually build a smaller building, and if it's more functional, then it's a more functional building, which is, the amount of space that we're adding, isn't a whole lot. But we're going to have a much more functional facility when we're done. I think that's just as important as just looking at the numbers.
No, I certainly agree. I think, the comparison, this is what we asked for originally when we were formatting or seating the MBC, committee, and it was, we needed to do a program comparison of what was existing and then virtually what we thought we needed to do in an efficient way. Now, there are 2 additional pages that show, and let me see if I can pull that up actually. Okay, so this doesn't have the table on the front, but the other 2 pages, this was part of that summary where that, what I did is I added back in, we're not paying for a vestibule at Kent Way. We're not paying for a lobby. We don't have a single user toilet. So anything that's highlighted in mark 0, that was classified as missing space on Kent Way. And then what I wanted to do was add in, I mean, you can see there's no building supplies, there's no janitor closet, there's no elevator stops. This is what's not included in our square footage at Kent Way, but we utilize as common area. When you own the building, you've got to take that into consideration. So is it worthwhile, team, to add these two other pages beyond? If I go back to, do you think there's benefit? Again, I'm trying to streamline this. Adding the two pages that had all of the breakdown and function as the next page beyond this comparison table? Or is it more information than we need?
I don't think it'd be bad to have it in there.
Dana, what do you think?
You know, you could footnote the chart maybe at the end or something. I mean, if you're just trying to streamline the briefing itself, and you don't want to talk about all of the stuff, you could take some of this. Let's just say it's an appendix. You could add an appendix to the end of it, which I know you've done that before for some other
Sure.
things.
Yep.
And in each of these slides that you're talking about, you could have a footnote down the bottom, see appendix 4
Mhm.
for like a more detailed explanation or something. So that if somebody wants to see where this stuff came from, you've got it covered, you know?
Yep.
So,
And this is all part of our existing record. This is just information from June of 2022 that was done. Okay, so moving on. Again, this just kind of reaffirms whether these need to be in here. Back in May of 2012, you know, resounding the alarm again on some of the concerns, overcrowding and health concerns at 25 High Road. And again, to the Commonwealth of Mass air quality assessment, which ultimately led to Town Hall moving out of 25 High Road and over to Kent Way. So let me, so I'm going to stop there. Now, Dana, let's circle back and just open this discussion up to whatever discussions we want. So Dana, why don't we start with you? And because you had some other ideas you wanted to bring up, but I just wanted to hold them off till we closed out the presentation.
yeah, I just got to thinking about, was there an after action report on the police station? Because I remember you've said for a long time that you guys learned an awful lot in doing the police station as you were doing it. And I'm just wondering, things that came up that you didn't foresee. Did anybody make notes of that kind of stuff or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. If you go back to probably our September meeting, our first meeting, when we had the designer qualifications, those are all the footnotes that we wanted to be specific on. And it was simply this. It's kind of common in the industry that line items in a project are design build. And we wanted to eliminate that. And there was a number of items in that, but you know what, Dana, if you want to go back to, and I can resend it to you, our opening meeting of September 22nd, 2023, we were talking about how we were going to amend the architect's contract if we wanted to add some specific content to it. But that was the result of the after action item. And the big thing, usually it's a post-mortem because you're over budget and you're behind schedule. So we were fortunate that wasn't the case. But you do learn something in every project.
Yeah, I guess my focus was what I was thinking of is the tear down. When it would be kind of cool, you know, we could prove ourselves right or we could prove ourselves wrong, but during the demo portion and we start getting into the nuts and bolts of the old building, I don't know if this is possible, but finding things that we didn't know were there. And you mentioned that in this briefing earlier today, where
Yep.
all of a sudden, the contractor goes, oh boy, like we need to bring some more help in here because we didn't expect this at all. It would be, and granted, it's going to take some time and money, but during the tear down, if we could do it somehow where we could almost prove or show that we were on the right track all along as we go. And even to put it in the archives for future rebuilds, it might be something that, I don't know, I suppose after the fact that's already voted for, it's already paid for, it really doesn't matter. But I think a lessons learned section planning later down the road might be a good idea.
Yeah, we did that with the police station right from the IT department, and the contractor did weekly photos that we posted every week as a project update. And it showed it from clearing the Morgan Ave site to, if you go back on I forget what it was called, but it was a very detailed chronological recording of
Right.
each and every step that I think a lot of people found helpful, and I would post that every week, and with what the steps were, but you can go back and you get a feel for what you
Yeah.
have. To your point, Dana, here's the big thing with dealing with Old Town Hall. You have load paths, bearing walls, and joists that end and start in certain locations that define room layout that won't match the room layout we're going to propose.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you're putting in steel beams, LVLs, or you're just replacing the floor system to make new. That's typically what happens in an old building. It just won't adapt to a new layout. And
And it's very labor intense, so that's very expensive too, to do that kind of work that Bob described.
yeah, that's usually the biggest risk. Never mind the energy issues. It's the load paths and trying to make spans work so that, think about when you're trying to make your kitchen bigger and you've got these walls that you got to put now all these beams and headers and to expand because they're holding up weight above. And that's breaking down what a load path is in simpler terms. Okay, Dana, so after action, yep, we did that. We gleaned a lot. And as I recall, it was our September 22nd meeting packet that had bullet points on what we wanted the architect to focus on this time around.
That's all I got.
Okay, Martha, you've been very patient listening to all our chatter here.
No, I don't really have any questions or anything to add at this point. I think, it's a comprehensive presentation on how we got to where we are.
Okay, thank you, Martha. John, any words of wisdom you want to add to the conversation?
No, I think I said enough, and I like the way we're conversing, and I appreciate Dana, who's kind of the doesn't have the background we do, to kind of poke at it a bit and see if we're answering questions well the way he would think, and maybe the general public would. I think you've done a great job and put this together, and we've made some nice comments here, and I'm ready for Saturday to help out.
Okay, so now just Saturday, team. I think that the meeting, it starts at 9 o'clock. We're certainly going to have, I think the wisdom of having it at Kent Way, it will provide for a better video after the fact because of, not that when we met at the library, it wasn't, it wasn't a bad video recording. But at Kent Way, I don't know if this will be actually broadcast live, but having all of the IT in place and AV in place, someone can look at the presentation tomorrow after the fact, and it'll be the best quality that we could hope for. So So we've kind of covered the format. I think the committee can all chime in from time to time. I think on the Q&A, it's important. Now that the SJC has come down with a ruling that basically takes the gloves off of what people can say and what people can do when it is a public comment that is open, more of an open mic rather than specific comment on a presentation. The whole purpose of the meetings the next couple of weeks is to get input from as many people that attend and not let it just be a couple of people overpowering the meeting and pontificating, their views. So what I'm going to suggest is setting up guidelines for public participation. I think everyone should be able to participate. But I look at it this way: if I cannot ask a lucid question in 60 seconds, why are we not renovating, or why are we doing this? Any question can be asked in 60 seconds. So I'm actually going to suggest that we consider all questions are going to be limited to 1 minute, because then you're asking a question, you're not making a statement. Tomorrow's a Q&A. It's not a forum to make a statement or to get off message on what we're trying to do, which is open this up for people that want to have ask the questions they want to ask. But what are our thoughts on that? We have to establish some guidelines so that it's I expect everyone's going to be cordial and respectful. But if they're not, at 59 seconds, we're going to move on to the next person, and it's unfortunate. I have mixed emotions about this because it's interacting with the public, and it's beneficial at times. But so I'm going to say, Dana, why don't you jump in, and then
Yeah,
we'll go to.
we talked a little bit about this at the select board meeting, and something like, for example, maybe just one person gets one question at a time, and if you have 3-4 questions, you step out of line and you go back to the back of the line to get off your next question, and that way people aren't like I don't know, Mike hogging and
Yeah.
we actually use the term filibustering. It's like somebody could get up there and filibust all day long. I think that that's something that may or may not happen, but I think that we need to keep each individual question relatively short, like you said, and probably limit each person to one question at a time. And then if we have more time at the end, of course, they can come back and ask a second question.
Yeah. I think on a Q&A, we're not going to limit the number of questions someone can ask, but in fairness to all those attending, do it in a sequential order. It just as you suggested, Dana. And you know what? We know what the questions are going to be. I mean, regardless of what your views on this, whether it's pro or against, we're all neighbors, we're all residents, and we all kind of know our positions. And it's what new information is needed, what new questions are going to be asked. I have to say, at the joint meeting over at the library, we set up seating for 88 people in anticipation that we could have a good sized crowd. And at the end of the day, once we had all the committees and boards there, we had the usual handful of people that attend our meetings that are vocal on this matter. But I think we had 3 other people that were there that asked different questions that were good questions, and it resulted in a little different thought, not just asking the same question over and over and over that we've answered it, we just don't like the answer that we're giving. So I think that's the point of letting people be able to speak without someone just overpowering the mic, but Martha, what are your thoughts on this? What's the planning board? How's the planning board handling these matters?
Actually, generally, we don't have open public comment. So there, there's public comment during a public hearing, but otherwise it's not there. So we haven't really addressed it.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right, let me just see here.
Hey, Bob,
Yeah, Dana.
are we gonna be able to post this, the guides that are up here right now? Are they gonna be on the town website so people can absorb them a little bit before the meeting, or?
Oh, you mean on on the packet?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I can talk to, yeah, once it comes to our meeting, it's a public record. And I'll work with Martha and see if we can get this posted,
I think that
today.
would be great.
Yeah, we'll work on doing that. Now I'm just trying to see.
And even if you, like, once it's posted, I don't know, if you could get editability on the online post at the town hall website, that way, if you want to tweak it, it's like a live document, and it will be constantly updated for everyone there, instead of having to do it at home and like say, well, I don't know what version I'm on right now, kind of thing. I don't know. I think it would be helpful.
Yeah. Trying to see if I can, no. Sorry about that. I'm not, I'm trying to find the I sent the packet that we just reviewed out to a designer that will update. Oh, okay, here we go. Okay. So let me,
Yeah, I got the new one. I'm looking at the new one right here in the background. It's got all the fancy blue borders on it and stuff.
yeah. Can you see this now? I just posted, am I sharing this?
No, you still got the other one up.
Okay. All right, so let me,
I think you might have to stop sharing.
okay. Stop sharing.
Gang, I gotta leave. I gotta head to Rhode Island for a meeting, so I'm gonna sign off here now.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yeah, and I'll see you Saturday morning before 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
See
All
you,
right,
John.
let me just see if I can, let's see. How's that? Do can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
So again, this is just adding a little more design to this. Basically the same content. This is still kind of in a proofread stage. But it's just more what slides we want to use for town meeting in a little better format. And what this is just breaking out the options. No, I'm not sure it matters one way or the other, but it just, it's a little more visual for people. Although every time I open this thing, I find another spelling error.
Yeah, I've found a few.
Yeah, I know. I hate to say this, these things, there's a site that you can use to do this stuff. It's called Freelancer. And so you literally put a packet up like the meeting packet, and people all over the world bid to polish it up for you. And I think the person I'm dealing with is either in India or Pakistan, and could not be any more accommodating. But English is not a first language, obviously, because town will be automatically spelled incorrectly, or police. It's
Yeah, I saw both of those.
yeah. So we're working with that to get that cleaned up, but, so. But again, this was just a format that, for town meeting, if we want to look at it, or you know, whatever we want to do. I'm just trying out some formats. I think town meeting, by the time we get to town meeting, it's really, we can have documents available, but we've made a recommendation. We can go over why. Here's the cost. Qualifier is the final number isn't known until the bids come in. And then be able to answer questions. I mean, that's kind of how I'm looking at this. Martha, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think things that help visually are probably
Yeah.
a plus, and it's, I mean, really the important thing is getting the information there to answer the questions that everybody's asking. I think going back to Dana's point, having something on the website that's editable, that I don't know that we can do that just the way the website works. It has to be saved as a PDF and posted. So then it would have to be unpublished and revised if it's
Yeah, I understand.
tweaked. So don't think we have the capability to do what you were suggesting, although it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just reposting, you edit the file and repost it
And
as
repost it.
XYZ version 2 rather than, or just replace it. Okay, so is it worthwhile pursuing finishing this format up just to have it, and then we can, I don't know if we're gonna get much beyond, any thoughts on this? Do you like this layout, Dana, the way this presents? Does this make it any easier, you think, or is it just
You know,
unnecessary fluff?
I don't know. I like it. I don't know if it's, gonna be a showstopper one way or the other, but
Oh,
I
yeah,
like
it
it.
just,
Yeah.
you know, it is, it just, is it more visually friendly with someone's gonna, can you follow, is it easier to follow than it is in the other format?
I think
that's-
it's easier to follow. Yes.
Okay, so that's the real value then, I think. Okay, well, guys, that's all I have. Dana, you got all of these files, right? Just to make sure that,
Yeah, I just want to make sure. I'm not sure the one that you had on your screen that you were briefing off of this morning. I'm not sure I have that one.
okay, let me do this. I'll resend them. I'll send both of these last two versions to you again, just so you
Okay,
have them.
awesome.
All right, so I think the only other remaining issue is the town is looking at a historical architect to do a survey of 25 High Road, to basically do a historical survey of, because one, it's in the historic district. Two, we don't have a clear record of what happened when by who, and on its face, it appears that a major renovation was done in 1977, and that probably eliminated any significant architectural elements. But the town, in its wisdom, wants to get a historical architect to come in and do a survey, and that's just happening. We should have that a result back by town meeting, because I think that's a question that can be asked that we should have an answer for. Dana, any questions on that?
No, I think it's a great idea, but no,
Okay. Martha,
I've done a lot of research myself on the significance of the building.
yeah,
And, yeah, I mean, obviously it's an icon right there on the corner, but I don't see, the fire that eliminated the original Grange. I think that would have been much more significant as far as trying to protect it you know, I listen, I don't want to get sentimental about this, but the building's really not that old.
No, exactly. I think
You know,
if we had the original two-story Grange building, the square footage would have been dramatically increased. And we would probably be looking at, I mean, for me, renovations are fine when the existing structure has sufficient square footage or more than you need. And that's usually the case when you have trying to reformat a school. But if it isn't, and you've got to put on an addition that's equal in size or bigger, that's where it just doesn't make any sense. So the old Grange Hall may have been, I mean, it looked pretty substantial in size from the pictures, but
Yeah, it looked kind of equivalent to the Woodbridge, actually.
yeah,
Yes.
and in hindsight being 2020, the Woodbridge School probably would have been an asset at this point if we could go back in time, but. All right, team, that's all I have. I'll resend out these two files to you, and I'll see you on Saturday.
all right.
Okay, Bob,
Okay.
what time are you gonna be over there setting up?
You know what? I'm gonna probably get there at 8 o'clock, Martha, just because is Matt Cooper going to be there? It's just gonna be, how do we get the deck up on the monitor?
Yeah, I haven't had any discussions about that.
That may be a good discussion to have.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a Wi-Fi tie-in, if I could just tie my laptop into it through Wi-Fi or through a
Yeah,
HDMI.
Yeah, it's an HDMI. If you've got a thumb drive to put into the laptop that's there, that's probably the easiest thing to do.
Okay,
But yeah, I don't know if Tracy's had any discussions with Matt about, tech support for that.
well, you know what? Why don't I do this after the meeting? I'll send out an email. I'll CC you, Tracy, and Matt, and just to see what we need to do in preparation for Saturday.
Right. I mean,
Saturday's meeting.
if he's not going to be there, I can certainly run the laptop. It would be nice, though, if he is there, even if it's not going to be broadcast live, if it can be recorded some way other than just the little camera that's in the room.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think this is important. One of the reasons we're doing it at Kentway was because of the technology.
Right.
So to give people, yeah, at least these things are always interesting. All the proponents and opponents that have been involved for the last 12 months, we're up to speed. Like everything that comes to an election, it's usually people start to sort through this stuff 2 or 3 weeks before the actual event, and that's when everything seems to percolate to the top. But all right, guys, I have nothing further, and as always, thank you for participation in this thing, and it'll be interesting to see where this goes.
All right.
See you on Saturday, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are we adjourned? Do we need to officially adjourn?
Well, actually, we no longer have a
Right,
quorum
no,
to
right, not a voting
adjourn.
quorum, so.
So, yep. So a motion to adjourn, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.